All right. So before I move to this changes in syllabus, first of all, let us have a quick look at the changes in the paper pattern. So it is now, once again, I repeat, it is applicable for the students, current students of O1. I mean the ones who start their O1s after the summer break. It is applicable for O2 students and for O3 students. Now, first of all, I must be writing here, these are, as the Cambridge have stated, so these are changes are applicable for the students who will appear in the exam in the year 2023 or 2024 or 2025. So that means the new O1 students, the O2 students, and the O3 students for all 3 years. First of all, in paper 1, there are no changes in paper 1 uh, in terms of the paper pattern. Topic wise, yeah, there would be changes, and I'll mention all of those in a while. But in terms of the paper pattern, there are not going to be any changes. However, for paper 2, there are some changes. First of all, paper 2, if you take a look at the past papers, you'll notice that paper 2 used to be of 75 marks. But now it will be of 80 marks. So they have added 5 extra marks for paper 2, sorry. It would no longer be of 75 marks, rather it would be of 80 marks. And no time has been added. The total time for the paper, it remains the same, 1 hour and 45 minutes. It remains the same. However, they have increased the total marks from 75 to 80. The other thing is, from paper 2, in paper 2 there would no longer be choice. Previously you used to have section A, and then you used to have section B, and then in the section B you had to attempt like 2 out of 3 questions. So you always had a choice of 15 mark question, but according to the new pattern there would be no choice in paper 2. So you would have to attempt every single question. Third thing, paper 4, aka ADP, alternate to practical, the marks have been increased from 30 to 40. So once again, they have increased the total marks of the paper 4 as well. And other than that, in ADP, and that's an important thing, in ADP, they have added an extra question, which is designing a practical. Or designing an experiment. So that is the new topic or new kind of question that you'll be getting in ADP, and it will be about designing an experiment. All right, they will give you a statement that a student needs to uh, find or observe a relation between temperature, for instance, the relation between temperature and resistance of a copper wire, design an experiment by which he can obtain the values of temperature and obtain the values of resistance, and he can come to a conclusion. So stuff like that you will be asked in paper 4. uh, I'll be making a video as well in which I have solved specimen paper for the specimen ADP paper of year 2023, and in that paper you already have a question about designing an experiment. Alright, so let's take a look at the first topic that has been removed from the syllabus, from the new syllabus. Now, first of all, like I was saying, uh, your practice material and like the yearly past paper, it would be containing the topics like this or topical past papers. So what you can do is you can take out your topical past papers and you can cross out these topics that I've mentioned over here because they would no longer be tested. So you don't need to prepare that. So the actual purpose of making the video is, once again, I have personally seen some of the students um, who were practicing these topics and who have been taught these topics. More importantly, uh, maybe they have not been conveyed by the changes in the syllabus, by the changes in the topics. So they were practicing these topics, um, and that's the only reason I plan to make this video. So first of all, uses of manometer. All right, this topic has now been removed. We used to study that in the chapter of pressure. So matter of fact, the chapter pressure, they have narrowed down to basically barometer, yeah, is still there. The relation between pressure and volume is still there, and the standard formula of pressure on an object, and the liquid pressure, atmospheric pressure, these things are there. But the manometer, and generally this is the topic that students sometimes find kind of a tricky, so they have removed that. So this is the first thing that you need to mark on your script, on your topical past papers. Uses of manometer. Any question like this, I've like yeah, mentioned, selected a question as well. So the question from this topic would generally look like this. So whenever or wherever you find a question like this, you can safely ignore this one because it would no longer be tested. This topic would no longer be tested. Here's another example. You would get a question like this. It consists of a U-shaped tube. Any question that includes the manometer and about the pressure of a gas container in comparison with the liquid pressure, anything like that, you can ignore it right away. All right, and then from the same chapter, you used to have the topic, the hydraulic system and the applications of the hydraulic system. That topic too has now been removed. So wherever you find this topic or question like these, you can just put a cross over there because you'll no longer be tested from this topic or with the questions like these. So in this one, basically you had to apply the Pascal's law for the distribution or transmission of pressure. So these topics, wherever you find them, you can ignore it straight away because it is explicitly mentioned in the syllabus outline, which we get from the Cambridge, that this topic has now been removed. Once again, here's another sample question that you would find from this topic. So anything like this or any question like this, you can straight away cross it down. All right, the next one is thermometry and thermometers. Uh, This topic, especially about the thermometry, which includes the terms like linearity and sensitivity, the construction of a liquid in glass thermometers, the concept about the constriction. You get the terms and questions like these in your past papers. You can ignore those one as well, because all the questions and all the topics related to thermometry have now been removed. So you don't need to study the structure of thermometers. Like, if you take a look at your uh, the older notes and the previous past papers, you used to get questions like this. For example, different types of thermometer, thermocouple, and the construction of those thermometers. Then how do you calibrate your thermometer? All the stuff that include these things have now been removed. So here's another question, the sample question that is related to a thermocouple. So these kind of questions have now been removed. Wherever you find these questions, you can ignore them, and you can use that time to practice the questions or to practice the topics that have recently been included, or the new topics that they have included, for example momentum and stuff like that. Like I said, for the topics that they have added, I'll be making a new video explicitly for the topics that have been recently added and the topics that you'll be tested in your exams. And here's the next one, called as latent heat. For latent heat, what you have is, if you go through the syllabus changes, they have written one line that only one objective of latent heat is there, and that objective is the definition of it, and that's it. Just you need to know how do you define the latent heat. That's it. The questions regarding in which you have to do the calculations with the formula of latent heat, and some of the times you have questions that are linked with specific heat, latent heat. These type of things have now been removed. So what you have to study is specific heat is still there, and all the variations and all the subtopics that are in there is still there, but the latent heat, you have to prepare just the definition of it, the formula, calculations, and mathematical questions like these. They have now been removed. All right, here's the next one. It is from the section of electricity and magnetism. Used to be quite a big topic, methods of magnetism and demagnetization. Methods of magnetization and demagnetization. So they include, you would find it in notes, single stroke method, double stroke method, using the electricity method, DC source method, DC electricity method, AC electricity methods, stuff like this. So all the questions related to methods of magnetization and the methods of demagnetization, all of those have now been removed. So wherever you find a question like this, you can just ignore this one, and rather you spend your extra time on the topics that have been added in the new syllabus. All right, another topic that has been removed from this section is magnetic screening. So magnetic screening, it is basically a subtopic of the applications of magnetic and non-magnetic materials, but all the topics that are about the magnetic screening or shielding, you can sometimes they use the word shielding. So any question that include these terms has now been excluded. So no need to spend your time on these one. All right, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, applications of electrostatic charging. That used to be quite a big topic because you would have to understand the working of a photocopier. You would have to understand the process of the electrostatic painting or the dust collector and stuff like that. So all the topics and all the questions that are about the applications of electrostatic charges have now been removed. So with all the topics that have been removed, you can see I have pasted a sample question. So you would realize that this is what the question looks like. So anything that looks like this, there would be plenty of questions about these topics in your past papers, whether yearly or topical. You have to ignore those questions. Once again, I repeat, do not waste times, do not waste your time on the things that you'll be no longer tested for. Electronics and the electronic system. So electronics, some of the devices that are that we study in the electricity are still there. Diode is one of them, and LDR is one of them. So these kind of devices, they are still there, but the chapter or the topic electronic system, that includes transistors and stuff like that, and especially the gates, logic gates, and this kind of stuff, that has now been removed. So previously, you used to have a question from this electronic system, especially with the logic gates. But the thing was, you used to have a question from this topic, but that was always in section B. And section B, according to the previous syllabus, according to the old syllabus, section B always comes with a choice. It used to come with choice. So this question or this topic was always on choice with some other topics. So previously as well, some of the students, they used to skip this topic straight away because they knew that this question would be in choice with some other questions, and they would just practice for the other topics. They would complete the other questions and skip this one. But since you no longer have choice in paper 2, and but on the positive side, what they have done is they have excluded the topic that is strictly about the electronic system, that is about the gates, logic gates, that is about the transistors. So here I have the sample questions. Any question that looks like this, you can ignore this one. So these are the topics that they have removed from the syllabus. Once again, I was saying that on the other side of the coin, where they have removed some of the topics, they have also added some new topics. And for those new topics, the ones that they have added, I'll be making a new video with the sample questions, and you would get to know what are those topics that are now in your new syllabus.